Drowning in Sand, Chapter 1, The Convalescence by the Sea, Part 1. This is it. Old bleached beer cans jingle in the dying dune grass. The sand blowing against hollow crab shells combined with the sea oats beating each other are a percussive hypnotic. The stench of death is enough to bring you down from any prescribed narcotic. Mere yards away, the grinding breakers moan constantly, taunting the nearby convalescents. The wind thrashes through vacant oceanfront dwellings and makes a mournful sound, not unlike members of a pod searching for their beached brethren. The shoals. Yes, that sweet sea breeze that lulled so many people to sleep is now gag-inducing to the resident insomniacs. This is it. Plastics overstay their welcome and are scattered by the ghastly gales, blowing in from the trash line to be tangled briefly among the sparse vegetation, then blowing back out to float on top of the overdosed tides. The gulls hang overhead constantly, screeching like they're mocking an injured child. There's the occasional aggressive wasp, a dwindling herd of skinny island deer, a random dead fox at the side of the sandy road, but mostly it's just the gulls besides the dwindling people, the convalescents. Welcome to the shoals. There was no welcome station to embrace him when he got here. There is no reason for tourists to visit, no desire to come down to the shore anymore. He's talking to himself and getting sand in his teeth from the rank wind. His tongue will feel swollen shortly. It will feel covered in an ashy film from the dirty wind momentarily. Soon. Now. When the sun rises, the first thing it shines on is the floating junk, the omnipresent trash line just past the breakers from the derelict houses, the discarded medical devices, the beached dolphins. Sicky shoals. He's gotten used to talking to himself and almost accustomed to the grinding of sand in his mouth, which accompanies all of his words. Yes, this is it. There are no surfers here anymore, not even when the storms roll in great waves, as no one wants to surf the trash. The lifeguard stands are rotting where they were deserted. Some have become gull havens, some have become splinter palaces. Some have been torn apart, their wood used for funeral pyres. He spits out ash gray sand. A gull laughs from somewhere, hovering nearby, fighting the winds above the Quisquillian shore. If he's had enough pills, he will answer himself. But he's not to that point tonight. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe sooner. Maybe later. The waves crash onto the trashed shoreline in front of him. No one has played in these breakers for years, at least not intentionally. A body is found occasionally, crashing in and washing out, crashing in and washing out, over and over and over. When he sits on this spot on a clear day, as clear as it gets at least, and watches the sunrise, he sees little midnight black specks and spots which shoot across the glare, sometimes the specks of birds flying by. More often it is airborne trash. Different waves have different voices, and now they sound like an angry mob calling for a captive, him, if but as a scapegoat, yelling from there and yelling from over there, yelling, chanting, taunting for him, at him. The gull shriek sounds like siren blasts. He wouldn't be the first dragged out by this patient yet persistent tidal force, those ripping tides, if you could get close enough for it to grab him. But he can't, not without help. He sits in an open, sliding glass door, rubbing his oily fingers onto his jeans. The grease and oil is from his wheelchair. The front wheels are as far as they can go without going over a bump and onto the wet, warped deck. He stares out at the surf, at the waves, at the trash in the water, the floating trash line, plastic bottles and milk jugs, feathers and more feathers, endless feathers. When the wind is blowing just right in the direction of their house, it smells like a cheap seafood restaurant in an underpopulated strip mall during an extended power outage. There are few footprints on the sand, though there's the random soul wandering, reminiscing of what once was. The beach patrol has been disbanded. It's been at your own risk for years now. The trash cans are still there, somewhere under that pile of trash and sand and shells and fishing line and hooks and feathers. But they're at the end of the line now. The landfills are on the beach. The beach is a landfill. Feathers are spread around like a madman slashed his way through a Las Vegas girl's dressing room. There hasn't been a child in a sandy bathing suit making sandcastles here for years. No parent, responsible or not, would allow their child to play in such a vile and foul dump. The only children here are the ones who are too sick to make it, the ones for whom there is no hope, no cure, nothing but chemical comfort until... His feet are sticking out over the deck and getting wet from the rain, but the eave shelters most of him. He's still in the socks he was given in the hospital, short socks with rubber grips at the bottom, so he won't slip when he walks, if he walks. He can walk a little, but it hurts a lot. He doesn't mind his feet getting a little wet in the cold rain. He can't really feel his left foot right now anyway. The left one, swollen, inflamed, rebellious. Out there, beyond the polluted breakers, beyond the trash line, but before the smoggy horizon is that smoldering ship. It looks like a toy from this distance, like a toy that's been set on fire and set to drift in the sea. It has been slowly burning out there for weeks. At first, it was on the news. They said it should burn itself out after 10 days, but then it might burn itself after the next rain, and then next week, then next week again. But it's been out there, floating and smoking, filling the sky with an ebony tattoo of smoke that smells like burning truck tires and burning pubic hair and burning plastic dolls. He tries to move his left toes. He thinks he sees them move slightly. The two in the middle feel crushed, and he expects to look down and see them swollen or bruised, but they look fine. He can't feel the other 3 toes on his foot, and that is fine with him. At least they don't hurt. He does the same to the toes on his right foot, the one that he can feel rain land on it, even through his socks. He sees that as a small victory, but as a victory nonetheless. He can see the big toe move, and he can feel it move too, and he can feel a jolt of hate run up his leg and stab him in the buttocks, for it wrenches him in the spine and then shocks him in the neck. He forgets about the small victory. The state agencies who would protect the sea turtle nests have long disbanded. These sea turtles have stopped laying their eggs for a simple reason: near extinction. One is found dead, washed up and half-eaten every couple of years. He winces in pain and accidentally takes a deep breath and inhales the rancid combination of the trashy sea smell and the burning ship. The ship's fumes keep burning off, and the sucker just floats in one place, it seems, in front of their oceanfront unit, their convalescent home. When he takes a deep breath, his hip stings as if from a dozen wasps. His left leg burns as if covered in kerosene and set ablaze. There is no odor of suntan lotion in the air. Disinfectants are in excess. He coughs, it burns. And when he coughs, the burn goes up his throat while the pain spills down his legs, and he feels like he's going to jump out of his chair, and then he feels like he's going to cry. He holds his breath and waits for it to pass, waits for his nerves to settle, and he holds it in and tries not to cough, not to breathe, but he coughs again and he hurts all over. And sometimes he thinks if he could get out of the chair, if he could get over the dunes and walk on that nasty, nasty beach, avoiding the dead seagulls and even worse, the sick gulls. If he could get to the water, he'd wade right in and swim past the waves, past the trash line, and just swim out to that burning ship and not bother to take in air. He'd get tired, but soon at least he wouldn't have to be putting up with this constant burning, stabbing pain. The lightning legs, the spinal stabbings. A volleyball net torn in places, traps careless gulls where they stay stuck until they die, looking like demented Christmas tree ornaments, looking like warnings to other gulls, disregarded warnings. Being like this, being in this wheelchair with this atomic explosion of pain in his raped nerves is considered a success. They keep him in the hospital for a week, then another week, ammonia smells, hacking sounds, buzzards and beepers, stretchers and walkers, and then they realize that all he does is vomit from the pain when he tries to walk. It used to be easy, walking, standing, but that seems so far away, so far in the past, like the beach. So they put him onto one of the public transports and they send him in his wheelchair down to one of the beachfront convalescent units so he can moan and throw up there, out of the way, so that they can go ahead and open up space to people who can actually be helped easier, cheaper. So he's been here, not getting any better, just puking into his lap, trying unsuccessfully to sleep, turning in bed and waking screaming, trying unsuccessfully to concentrate on anything. He watches the waves get bigger and the dunes get smaller week after week, and the trash line gets wider, and that ship keeps on burning and burning but won't sink or smother, and the whole waterfront stinks like a neglected mill, a neglected paper mill, like an unmanned landfill in July, like downhill from a pod of bloated, bleached, beached whales. So now he sits as the air goes bad into him, and he bends over and he throws up on his legs, his laps and feet. He can feel it on his socked right foot, but not on his left foot. Pins and needles, lightning pain. He dreams that his leg bones have been replaced with lightning rods, which are continually stuck by bolts. And he gags, coughs again, and he feels like he is going to die. Wishes he would, actually. Once he stops coughing, he wonders if he's pissed himself as he hears his name being called. Gag, cough, piss, repeat, then repeat again, with the occasional vomit persistent.